First thing that I'm going to do when I get back is...
Spoilers, the following video is mostly intended for humor. I nitpick, make jokes, and generally just have fun pointing out things that don't quite add up. That said, I may make a few actually valid points along the way. I'll leave it to you to decide which is which. Welcome to the channel, I'm Hayes. I talk movies all day, so subscribe right now if you want to be entertained. And today, I want to talk about Alien, the 1979 sci-fi survival horror about a mother trying to bring a lost baby home. So how this works is I'm going to go through the film and point out all the interesting things that I can find in Alien. So the movie starts off with empty space. For real, it's basically sleep meditation music for the first nearly 7 minutes. And since the crew is actually asleep, that makes sense. Also, did you notice Kane was the first to wake up? More specifically, did you notice how he got up? Anyway, before that, we get some information about the ship, the crew, what they're doing and where they're going, including that they're carrying 20 million tons of mineral ore. However, the ship's capacity is 200 million tons, which means they're either lazy or incompetent. In any case, we also get the name of the ship, the Nostromo, which is named after a character in the 1904 Joseph Conrad novel, Nostromo, A Tale of the Seaboard.
Oh, I feel dead.
Anybody ever tell you look dead, man?
Here's the thing about this scene. NASA and pretty much every space program in the world have never allowed smoking in spaceships due to safety concerns. Although, apparently, unofficially, the Soviets were sneaking cigarettes into their space missions, allegedly. But even if they were, that would have ended by 1998 when the International Space Station launched. Now, since this movie is set in 2122, nobody should be smoking on the Nostromo at all. Unless, sometime before 2122, they figured out how to smoke on spaceships without it being an explosion risk. And if that's the case, you mind explaining that? According to Reps Hyperborea on the Replica Props forum, this is a Dutch rubber keychain made in the 1960s. They're very rare, and the only place I could find selling it is Vintage Joy for All on Etsy.com. But here's where it gets interesting. They both refer to this as Kane's monitor. However, it's clearly Lambert's monitor. You can even see parts of Lambert's hand holding a pen, not a cigarette. Now, I know there's different cuts of this movie, which is a pretty normal thing, especially for a 46-year-old film. But now I'm wondering, was the original cut showing this to be Kane's monitor? And if so, what would be the point in editing it to look like Lambert's monitor? Especially considering a year later John Hurt was in The Elephant Man, this would have been perfect. Also, Lambert says they're just short of Zeta 2 Reticuli, which is the second star in the Zeta Reticuli binary star system. This puts them about 39.3 light years from Earth, or to put that in Star Wars terms, the Kessel Run. Now, in 1961, Betty and Barney Hill claimed to have been abducted by aliens. In 1966, a book based on their story by John G. Fuller called The Interrupted Journey was published. That book contained Betty Hill's sketch of the star map she described while under hypnosis. Then in 1968, Marjorie Fesh, an amateur astronomer, became so fascinated by the star map that after years of studying, she eventually found that Betty Hill's star map matched the vantage point from the Zeta Reticuli system. This caused a lot of debate with astronomers and UFOologists, but as of now, there's no official determination as to whether the Hills were really abducted or not. But that's not going to stop Hollywood from trying to make a movie about them starring Demi Moore and Coleman Domingo. Parker is 6'4", definitely taller than average, but not so tall he should have to bend his neck walking through the hallway. You're telling me the Nostromo can carry up to 200 million tons of mineral ore, but it couldn't put a few extra inches in the corridor? Bear in mind that Parker fit just fine in the sleeping pod, so it's not like the designers didn't know taller people exist. They were just being super inconsiderate, probably trying to save money. Honestly, every time Parker says, "We need to talk about the bonus situation," he's right. And speaking of Parker being right, they are on a cargo ship, not a rescue ship. Furthermore, they're 39 light years away from home, none of them are military or combat trained, plus no backup in case something goes wrong. While investigating an unknown transmission, the only right thing to do is to tell Mother to send someone else. Now, I know they won't get their money if they don't go because of the clause in their contract, but money ain't no good to a dead man. Also, I don't know who needs to hear this, but always read the small print. When Ash says they're just under 2,000 meters away from the transmission, Kane remarks, "walking distance," and then Dallas laughs. But there's a whole 3 seconds before Dallas laughs.
Walking distance?
So first of all, pretty slow to catch on. And B, I don't think Kane was joking about walking the 2,000 meters. I mean, it's about 1.25 miles. It's really not that far. That said, they'd be in spacesuits walking through an unknown planet towards an unknown transmission. So yeah, probably not a good idea to walk.
We're guaranteed by law to get a share.
What?
Why don't you just fuck off?
What?
Yaphet Kotto was told to annoy Sigourney Weaver when between filming, so if you ever thought Ripley really does look pissed off, that's why. Speaking of Ripley, believe it or not, but Ripley was named after Robert Ripley, who was a cartoonist and the creator of the newspaper series Ripley's Believe It or Not. Also, all the main characters in this film, including Ripley, were written with unassigned genders. It's one of the reasons none of them have first names.
Ash, can you see this?
Yes, I can. I've never seen anything like it.
I mean, you're on an unknown alien planet, so you're just stating the obvious at this point. Also, this is the second time Lambert suggests they should turn back, and the second time they ignored her. Even after seeing that massive skeleton with the blown out ribs, they kept going. Nah, you've investigated enough. You fulfilled your contractual obligations. Time to go home. Whatever happened there, you don't need to know. You know what? I don't even feel bad for him. Dude had plenty of warnings. Okay, so Dallas is willing to take responsibility if Kane dies. But when Ripley said they have to quarantine for 24 hours, dude was all like, he could die in 24 hours. You know, for someone so concerned about quarantine, Ripley really should have shut that door right away.
Whenever he says anything, you say right, Brett. You know that?
Right.
True, but when you're right, you're right. Okay, to be fair, we don't know if putting Kane in cryosleep would have helped or not, but based on what they do know at this point, cryosleep does seem like the most sensible option. Anyway, Dallas said Kane's gonna have to go into quarantine, and still nobody shuts the door behind them.
I'd rather be eating something else, but right now I'm thinking food.
You just know what it's made of.
I mean, when you're right, you're right. Anyway, if you ever thought the actors in this scene looked genuinely shocked, it's because the actors in this scene are genuinely shocked. And there's a couple of reasons for that. First of all, apart from Tom Skerritt, none of the cast, not even John Hurt, knew exactly how the scene was going to play out. And B, they used real blood. Animal blood, but real blood nonetheless. They didn't need to discard Kane like that. I mean, it's not like fuel consumption is an issue. They're not even going to attempt to bring him back to his family. That's just disrespectful. He's not an animal. He's a human being.
Parker, I don't want any heroics out of you, all right? Catch it, put it in the airlock.
Originally, Parker was supposed to respond with, "Do I look like Flash Gordon to you?" But it was taken out because they thought audiences might think it was a racial joke, which, personally, I think is a bad reason to take it out. People are gonna think whatever people are gonna think. However, a good reason to take it out is, this is set in 2122. Why would anybody still be referencing Flash Gordon? It's 2025. People don't reference Flash Gordon now. So unless Flash Gordon gets a major revival in the next 97 years, which I'd be totally down with, yeah, it don't make sense to be making that reference. Close the door. So this looks like they got a pretty big hole in the roof and it's raining outside, but they're in a spaceship in space. So that's not it, which means they have a pretty big water leak. Something like that should have been noticed before, and if it was noticed before, then why haven't Parker and Brett already fixed it? I'm not sure these guys deserve a bonus after all. But if none of them noticed this massive leak before this, nah, none of them are surviving this movie. If the alien don't kill him, dehydration will. We're over 1 hour and 7 minutes into the movie, and this is the first time we see adult alien. So let's talk about it a little. The adult alien was played by two people, Eddie Powell, who did the stunt work, and Balaji Bodejo as the main alien. Now, whereas Eddie Powell already had a long career in film prior to this movie, Balaji Bodejo did not. In fact, he wasn't even trying to be an actor. He was a graphic design student from Nigeria studying in England. But then one day while out in London, he was spotted by casting agent Peter Adram, who noticed his thin 6'10" body and was like, yep, that's the guy. Now, Alien ended up being Balaji's only movie role. He was offered a part in Aliens, but chose to go back to Nigeria instead. In 1983, he opened his own arts gallery, and it was also the same year his youngest brother, Deji Bodejo, passed away from sickle cell anemia. Balaji had also been living with sickle cell as well, and Yinka Richardson, his girlfriend and mother to their children, said of him that he never let having sickle cell anemia affect his life. He coped with it as best he could. And Balaji Bodejo continues to cope with it as best he could until the 22nd of December 1992, when he passed away at 39 years old in his home city of Lagos. Now, speaking of Balaji Bodejo, I read on the Internet Movie Database that Yaphet Kotto would pick fights with him on set, which might not have been exactly true. But what does seem to be true is that there was a day on set where one of the producers got really mad at Balaji for missing his marks and started shouting and swearing at him. Yaphet then got in between them and told the producer, leave the brother alone, and he did. And speaking of leaving alone, notice how Jonesy just looks on at Brett's getting killed? See, this is why cats are smarter than dogs. A dog would have tried to be Flash Gordon, but cats know in a situation like this, it's better to be Flash Thompson. Alex's death is his own fault. I mean, I get they thought the alien was on the same level as him, but he's right there and can clearly see no alien on that level. He even said it himself that the signal could be picking up interference. So really, should have just went back the way he came. Furthermore, if he was gonna go ahead, why not flame the hatch first, like he did before?
Let's hope that somebody
Lambert.
picks us up. The shuttle won't take 4.
You're talking about this shuttle that the whole crew took to go down to LV-426? The one that Parker and Brett fixed, and when they fix something, it stays fixed? That shuttle? I think 4 people can fit just fine. But to be fair, the shuttle is probably designed more for shorter trips, and although 4 people can fit inside, it may not be able to sustain people for a potentially long period of time. Now that said, Lambert's exact words were, "We take our chances and just hope that somebody picks us up." And that to me is still the better plan. If they take the shuttle, they might die. If they stay, they will die. By the way, the name of the shuttle is the Narcissus, and just like the Nostromo, it's also named from a Joseph Conrad novel, though I shall not be reading aloud the title of this book. This is the part of the movie where we find out the Nostromo crew have been set up and that Ash is a descendant of ChatGPT. But now I'm thinking, why would the Weyland-Yutani Corporation use a cargo crew? Surely they would have known that the crew would have had next to no chance of surviving to be able to even bring back the alien. Wouldn't it have been better to use a military crew or people with a lot more combat and survival training? But had they did that, where you might not be able to maintain plausible deniability. So I guess in the end it does actually make sense to use an unsuspecting cargo crew from a soulless, greedy corporate bastard point of view, but they definitely should have used a better robot than Ash. Maybe use one that would have known to do an x-ray on Kane before letting him out the medical bay. So if all the characters were written with unassigned genders, then whose room is this?
You two go down, get all the coolant you can carry. I'll get the shuttle ready.
I know time is of the essence, but they gotta know splitting up is a bad idea. And speaking of bad ideas, Ripley, shut the door. You should have just set that thing on fire. And if she gets burnt too, it is what it is. Here's the thing about this scene. Yaphet Kotto didn't want Parker to be killed off, and director Ridley Scott basically had to talk him into it. But on the day this scene was shot, Yaphet decided to goad Balaji by saying, "Ain't no alien gonna beat me, ain't no alien gonna hold me down," which, as you probably guessed, is exactly what happened. Mother said the ship would blow up in 10 minutes unless the auto self-destruct is cancelled in the next 5. 1 minute later, Mother said, "Now you got 3 minutes to cancel." Another minute later, and Mother drops it down to 1 minute to cancel. Just a few seconds after that, Mother started the 30-second countdown, which means Mother gave less than 3 minutes to cancel the auto self-destruct instead of 5. Ripley was right to call her a bitch, especially considering from the time the cancellation expired to the time the Nostromo blows up is actually about 5 minutes. So it's not like Mother can't count. Now I ain't no space astrologist or whatever, but Ripley didn't look far enough away from that explosion to not get got. Ripley died in this scene. Anyway, so if all the characters were written with unassigned genders, was this scene written in the script as Ripley strokes her pussy? right? I mean, this film was originally rated X in the UK and has since been dropped down to a 15 cert, so what's up with that? Well, actually, turns out the reason it was given an X rating by the British Board of Film Classification in 1979 was because the censor thought that this scene was too sexually suggestive for 14-year-olds. Which means, back in 1979, a UK 14-year-old could watch a movie with swearing, violent deaths, a woman stroking her pussy, and builder's bum, but an alien egg that opens up? That's crossing the line. Anyway, the film ends with one last showdown when Ripley realizes that Alien is on board the shuttle because Ripley left the door wide open. It's also the first and only time in the whole movie anyone actually shoots a weapon at the alien. But before that, Ripley sings "You're My Lucky Star," which I understand is a way of Ripley trying to calm herself down in this dire situation. But I think a better choice of song would have been X Factor by Lauryn Hill.
I keep letting you back in.
Maybe then she'd remember to shut the damn door next time. But that's what I think of Alien. What do you think of Alien? Let me know down below, and while you're there, be sure to like, subscribe, and drop a suggestion if you don't mind.